Hello there, I'm a nerd named Ryan, and I've got something a little different today. I'm going to be doing a book review, but it is a book that's tied into a larger media franchise, like a movie franchise. We're doing a Star Wars novel. Specifically, I'm going to be reviewing this, Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, part of the Star Wars Legends range, which of course means that it's no longer canon, it's part of the extended universe. This basically tells the story of Obi-Wan and kind of his early days on Tatooine after leaving baby Luke Skywalker with the Lars family, and he kind of interacts with this local kind of community on Tatooine and gets involved in a bunch of kind of violent confrontations and various dramas between the various settlers on Tatooine and some nearby Tuscans. So yeah, that's your basic kind of setup for the book. I'm not really going to go into many spoilers. I'm just going to give you my general overall thoughts on this book. I really liked this. I really enjoyed this. It feels like a mix of a Star Wars story and a Western novel, and I really like that. Something that I think is really interesting about this book is that even though it's about Obi-Wan, even though it's named Kenobi, and there's Obi-Wan on the front there, Obi-Wan's not actually a POV character. Instead, we get various POV characters. We get the points of view of a couple of different members of this kind of community on Tatooine, specifically cantina owner Annalene Colwell and local sort of businessman Oren Galt. We also get several kind of chapters and several parts that are told from the POV of the Tuscan war leader Ayark. And through these various POV characters, we kind of build up Obi-Wan as kind of this mysterious drifter who comes in and helps. He is basically, like I said, this feels like a Western novel. The main kind of setting of it is a place called Danar's Claim, which is owned by Annalene. And it's basically like a saloon, like a Wild West saloon. And Obi-Wan, through the various kind of, through how various people in this community see him, is kind of presented almost as like the Clint Eastwood kind of character, the man with no name, And that is perfectly set up in the prologue to this book, where we're in a completely different bar, not the one that's going to be, the main one of the main settings for the book. This is a different bar, a different cantina, and some trouble starts going down. Obi-Wan sort of wanders in with a little baby Luke Skywalker, and then some trouble starts brewing, and Obi-Wan sort of sorts it all out. This kind of mysterious drifter, this kind of mysterious loner who just wanders in and just takes care of business and sorts out all the trouble. And that really sets the tone. It really makes it feel like a kind of an old Western, again with the kind of the man with no name character kind of coming in and just sorting out all the trouble, sorting out all the troublemakers and stuff like that. It's a really interesting read. I like that it's kind of set up like a Western. I love the characters in this book as well. The characterization in this is fantastic, particularly Annalene. I think Annalene is a fantastic character, and she's really compelling. She's really interesting. She's really funny. She's got some really great funny lines. She's got some really great interactions with Ben Kenobi as well, which is fantastic. She's just great. Then the other two kind of POV characters, you've got Orin and Ayark. Orin is the kind of the local businessman, local kind of moisture farmer, and Ayark is a Tuscan warlord. And they have two character arcs that go in very kind of interesting directions. Like, you think they're going to be one thing, and then they go and they end up, their characters end up going in a different kind of direction to what you're expecting. Particularly sort of towards the end, we get a twist that I thought was really interesting, a really interesting kind of character reveal about one of them, without going into spoilers. The one thing I will say for this book is, well, two things. One, if you're expecting a book that is all about just full of kind of Obi-Wan and his thoughts and stuff like that, again, you don't get that. He's not really a POV character in this. You do get the occasional meditations from him where he is, talking to or trying to talk to Qui-Gon. And that's where we get kind of his thoughts and his perspective on things. And those are really interesting parts of the book. But for the most part, like I say, we're sort of observing Ben Kenobi through the eyes of these other characters, and how he kind of ends up getting involved in their stories and how their stories end up connecting and revolving kind of around him. So that's really interesting. But if you want something that's from Obi-Wan's point of view, this isn't going to be for you. Also, I will say the book is a slow burn. The first couple of acts are very much very much built on building characters and, kind of building the various kind of dramas and the storylines and setting things up. So it is a bit of a slow burn to start off with, but once it gets going and towards the end, in the kind of the last act, everything kind of really picks up, and we get all the things that are set up paying off in a really satisfying way. All the stories kind of colliding, and all the little dramas colliding, and all the character bits kind of it all just pays off really, really well. The book's actually in 4 parts. And once you get to the final part, which is the last like 100 or so pages, that's when the pace really starts to pick up. We get a lot of action in the last like 120 pages or so. They just sort of flew by. The last act of this book just absolutely flew by. That's the really kind of action-packed part of the book. Again, the rest of it is spent building characters and setting up various things. But you know what? You don't actually mind, because the characters are all so interesting and compelling, and their relationships with each other are so interesting that I would just have a full book of that. That was, to me, that was as interesting as the big kind of epic action sequences towards the end. There are action sequences throughout the book, I should say. There are like fights with Tuscans and stuff like that, but it's a much more character built story to start with, and a much more slow burn story. You have these occasional bits of action, but mostly it's a good sort of slow burn, takes its time building things up, and then paying it off all really brilliantly at the end. John Jackson Miller's writing style as well was really fun. I really liked his writing style. It was a super easy book to read, super fast. I'm not the fastest reader in the world, but I powered through this pretty quickly. Like I say, especially those last 100 or so pages where all the kind of action and all the stories all pay off in a really exciting, fast, action-packed way. Yeah, it's just a really, really fun book, and I think everybody should. And I think if you like Star Wars, I think if you like Obi-Wan, if you like the kind of the extended universe and the extended lore and the non-canon stuff from Star Wars, you should definitely pick this up. I've actually not read any of the Star Wars novels before, so I wanted to get into reading Star Wars books, and everyone always kind of raves about this one, about Kenobi, and having picked it up, yeah, it absolutely lives up to all of its hype. It is fantastic. The next ones I'm probably going to read are the original Thrawn trilogy, the Legends ones, because I've heard those are great as well. And I like Thrawn from his appearances in the various kind of TV shows and stuff. He was really good in Ahsoka. So I've been meaning to read some of the Thrawn books, both canon and Legends. So I'll probably get to those next. But let me know, have you read Kenobi? What do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you not love it so much? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let me know as well if you want to see me do more book reviews, because I do love books as much as I love movies. So yeah, let me know if you want to see me do more book reviews. Whatever your general thoughts are on this video, drop them down in the comments. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you when I see you. Bye. Right, okay. First book review done. It was probably quite bad, but I've never done one before.